Technology seems to move faster with each passing day. And with that comes the issue of keeping up with it all. Buying new equipment, getting rid of old, and then having to learn how to use it. Well, one group in San Diego is helping to solve these problems. I'm Jenny Robinson, and our guests today are Gary Knight, Executive Director, and Teresa Valenzuela, Marketing and Event Coordinator at San Diego Futures Foundation. Gary and Teresa are here to tell us all that this wonderful nonprofit group is doing to improve lives through technology and the role they play in serving nonprofits and underserved communities here in San Diego. Welcome, Gary and Teresa.
Thank you.
It's so delightful to have you here to tell us all about this. I know nothing about this, and you're right in my neighborhood. So I want to hear, first of all, how this whole thing came about. Gary, tell us where the idea came from.
Well, thank you, first of all, for inviting us and to be with you today. The idea really came from the county supervisors. Back in 1995, when most of them were newly elected, they were running in the red. The county was losing money, and they were looking for ways that they could improve services but reduce cost. So they did the research, and they found that they could outsource their IT services. And so they put out a request for bid, and the organization that won that had to form a nonprofit because the county supervisors also wanted to make sure that the computers got back out in the community. And so they formed the San Diego Futures Foundation in 1999, and we're coming up on our 20th anniversary in December. And over those years, our focus has been to take computers that the county donates through their contractor, and currently that contractor is Perspecta. And they help us by collecting the computers and us picking them up from them. And over the course of these last 20 years, we've donated or sold over 53,000 computers. Oh, and we've trained over 10,000 people. And we've been able to measure that roughly 4,000 of them have improved their jobs either through better wages or finding jobs through our trainings. So that's been somewhat of the impact that we've had on a personal level. And it's been quite a ride. Like I say, when you're doing something for 20 years and when you recognize that the county continues to have about 15% of its population, what we call disconnected or on the wrong side of the digital divide. Well, 15% doesn't sound like much. Let's put it in perspective. It's over 400,000 people that still do not either have equipment, do not know how to use it correctly, or do not have access to the internet. And so those are the tasks that we work on every day. It's called digital inclusion or digital equity. And every day we wake up and go out and try to impact that, one person at a time, making sure they get a computer, teach them how to use it, or making sure that they know where they can get the internet from.
So this is in people in homes and in people in businesses that are accessing these technologies?
Right. So our primary focus is either individuals or nonprofits. So we have served over 2,000 nonprofits in the course of our 20 years or more. Now, if you figure that there's over 12,000 nonprofits in San Diego, it doesn't sound like much, but only about 3,500 to 4,000 of them are of size that we say that they have a paid staff and are out there doing major work. There's some small family nonprofits that are more of a funding or mechanism. But anyway, we've served that many. And then the individual businesses are what they call either disadvantaged or underserved in populations or neighborhoods. And those are the businesses that we can work with. But we do have income restrictions, so they have to meet certain qualifications in order to qualify for our programming.
Okay. And so has the county saved money then?
Significantly.
Yeah, I'll bet.
Significantly. In fact, the San Diego County was held up as an example across the country as the first major entity, a government entity that outsourced their IT and was successful.
Oh, that's great.
So they've gained lots of recognition.
Yeah. All right, Teresa, tell us how it all works. Tell us how this program works. You're in charge of a lot of it.
Well, I do the marketing aspect, Jenny. But in regard to when the hardware comes in from the county, I tend to look at it as whether it goes downstream, midstream, or upstream.
What
now,
does that mean?
Downstream means recycle. So since inception, since 1999, we've recycled 3 million pounds of e-waste, and what we do is we refurbish it and we reuse it wherever possible. And so we're environmentally friendly. Think about that. That's a lot that did not go. A lot of e-waste that did not go into our landfills, right? And then we have midstream, and that's midstream is when what we do is when the county comes in and we refurbish the computers, we re-image them, we put software on there. Right now we have Windows 10 Pro and Office Suite 2010, excuse me. So what we do is they either go to nonprofits or they go to individuals that meet the income limitations.
Okay.
So yeah, and then we also have upstream. So a lot of times, not only do we get donations from the county, we also get them from individuals. And for example, somebody will come in and drop off apples. Well, what we can do is take those Apple machines and put them on eBay. And so we'll get a considerable amount for those as well. And everything that we get from all of those donations and proceeds, they go all upstairs to the educational fund.
So you have technicians that actually work there on your computers.
Oh, absolutely. You should see one of our technicians. His name is Chewy, and he has about, instead of re-imaging one computer at a time, because we have a whole warehouse of computers that come in from all over the county, from all different sites, and they come in and we're the hub. And so, for example, Chewy, he has at least 10 computers lined up where he'll re-image them all at one time. Right, and go ahead and put re-image them, put new software on it, and get it ready to go upstairs.
And he has to know how to fix all the different types of computers that come in.
Absolutely, they have different bins. We have Edwin downstairs, who's a sorter, and he knows it looks like a chaotic mess, but it's not.
Yeah.
We know exactly
Very
where
organized.
everything. Very organized.
I got a chance to visit it.
Yes, you did, didn't you?
Yeah,
it was great.
Yes, but there must be quite a few junk computers that come in. I mean, you have to look at them and say, well, what is this worth? Is it really worth fixing? Yes, no, throw it away, or recycle the parts.
Recycle the parts is what we do. We'll
Yeah.
take the parts out and use what we can, and then because you can rebuild another computer just because your
with the
computer
parts.
might not be turning on, or there's still good parts inside of there.
Just like a car.
Exactly. No, so we'll reuse those and
Great.
repurpose that.
That's great.
And then we can go ahead and rebuild another computer, and it goes upstairs. And it goes
Wow.
to a child.
Okay, so you have a very large area. You have a big basement,
Yes, we do.
and you have a whole upstairs of offices.
Yes.
So you take up a big area of your location, which is on El Cajon Boulevard.
4283 El Cajon Boulevard, Suite 220. But we're also downstairs in Suite 140.
So if people want to donate a computer, they could go to your location?
Absolutely.
All right.
So they can come, we're just south of El Cajon Boulevard off of 43rd.
Okay.
And we have an area where they can pull into the warehouse and drop it off. And our technicians will provide them a donation receipt, and they can use that to deduct from their taxes.
Oh,
So
great.
it's also a tax benefit.
Great.
Absolutely.
Great. So you don't just work with the County Office of Education. You have other partners that you work
Right.
with.
So we've worked with a number. So going back to the computer donations, organizations like Qualcomm, General Atomics. As we said, we have a partner with Perspecta who does the county contracting, and so many others that make those kinds of corporate donations. And then we have community partners, such as you mentioned, the County Office of Education that works with all 42 of the districts locally. And then we work with a lot of municipalities and trying to help them with various programs. There's a whole movement right now around an issue called smart cities, where they're looking at how various things can be connected. And for instance, the city of San Diego is using connected streetlights. The city of Chula Vista is using a drone program to help public safety. So excuse me, there's a number of organizations that we work with and supplying them equipment, or them giving us equipment that we can then repurpose and reuse out in the community.
So do you know when they come in and say, we're going to try to, with the lights, with the street lights, they're
Right.
trying to
So
coordinate them?
And because of that, what they're saying is we're trying to move our cities into the future, right? Because they all have sensors in them. They can detect, some of them have cameras built into them, some actually have microphones.
Oh, wow.
And there's a whole lot of discussion about how that's being used, right? But the idea, though, is that by using the technology, we can better serve the community at a lower cost and provide better safety. But there's discussion is coming around the fact that there's still a population being left behind. And they want to make sure that there's something in place to bring that population forward. And that's where they turn to us and say, can you help us either through donations of equipment or through helping individuals learn how to use computers more effectively?
So you sit down with them at a table and you say, what is it that you're looking for?
Exactly.
Do you need computers, or do you need, what else? What else do you,
The training is the primary
training,
Because
okay.
when you figure we've been doing this for 20 years, so we don't have to start from scratch, where this is just becoming a regular, somewhat of a relative new thought for a lot of the cities. And so they're looking for partners that have a lot of experience, and that's where we step in.
which is great,
Yes.
and the price is right. I mean, you're
Yes.
finding how much they are willing to pay, kind of thing, on a sliding scale, or is it a?
No, right now we just our biggest cost is instructors and people overseeing the program. So if we can get that covered, then the rest of the stuff, the equipment, et cetera, is being provided. So that's not an issue.
Boy.
Yeah.
So when you say partners, these are people that give you physical computers, not money, right?
There are some who do give us money. We go for grants and other things that are used. In fact, the building we're sitting in right now, Spectrum is one of our partners who has given us a grant to do
Oh, I'll
instruction
be
for
darned.
seniors.
I'll be
And
darned.
so
Oh.
every year we train upwards of 200 to 300 seniors on how to use technology. And we do this in small classes across the county.
Wow. All right, we're going to come back to that educational part.
Yes.
But that is really interesting. So if they want to donate money, while we're on that subject, where can they send that money? What's your website? Go ahead.
Okay, our website is, of course, the old www, and it's SD Futures. So it's SDFUTURES.org.
Okay.
Because we're an organization,
right.
we're not a com, we're an
That's right.
org.
That's right.
And they can phone, they can call in at 619-269-1684.
Great.
And those are the two ways that they can reach us most directly. Go on our website is also a number of places where there's a little, we always put the little donate button so they can
It's
do
always
that.
important.
Yes,
Great. So people can donate money or computers.
yes ma'am.
Great.
Absolutely. Whether they be individuals or corporations as well.
That's right.
I mean, think about how many corporations in their back room have computers just sitting there.
Yep.
We can take those computers and help bridge that digital divide.
So schools, I know I worked in a school that we
Yes.
had a whole closet full of junk.
Right.
So the sustainability then, let's talk about the numbers again, about how much have you affected the community here in numbers of computers and.
Well, I was just going to say the sustainability factor, there's a direct and a direct. So the direct is the 3 million pounds plus that we've taken out of the landfills.
3 million
Pounds.
pounds.
But when you also start thinking about all the computers that have been recycled,
Right.
those aren't going into the landfill either. And so that number we really don't have. I mean, I can't tell you poundage, but when you figure weigh out a computer, multiply that by 53,000, so it's probably been the hundreds of millions of
Wow.
pounds that we haven't put into the landfill, but they're being used, and that's the key.
Absolutely.
Is that when somebody thinks about a computer, many times once they reach a certain age, they say, well, it's no longer valuable. But to somebody who doesn't have a computer,
That's right.
Very
that's
valuable.
gold.
That's right.
And I wish you could see some of the kids that come into our office who families are picking up a computer. They're so excited because this is their first. And most school districts now are requiring the children to do their homework and other assignments online. Most of the testing now is done online. And even registering for school is done online. So if you don't have a computer, you have to search for one. You have to go to the library or some other community resource. And if it's not available, or if there's a waiting line, so getting their first computer becomes a major gift for them.
That is a wonderful service. Even if you did nothing else, that is the best
And
thing
I'll
for.
give you one other story. A gentleman came in and he was, I would say elderly, he was my age. And he was needing a new computer. His is broken, we couldn't fix it. And he said, well, I'm gonna have to save up money. He says, but I'm really bothered by this. And I said, well, what's the issue? And he said, it reminds me of when I was growing up in rural Mississippi. This gentleman happened to be African American. And he said, most of the people that I grew up with were illiterate. They couldn't read and they couldn't write. And it always created not only shame, but it also created a lot of problems in getting jobs. He says, without my computer, I feel the same way. I feel illiterate because everything done today is done online. And so that really put in perspective for me what it
Absolutely.
means to not have the computer in a computer age.
That's right. So you have given computers to foster kids.
We do on an average about 300 families.
Wow.
Yes.
And so, as was mentioned earlier, the county assist and Supervisor Greg Cox, who sort of initiated the program back in 2002, comes out
Yes.
and actually helps load up the computers into
That's
the
great.
cars.
That's great.
And it thanks the families for taking care of kids that needed a home. And so we began limiting the number of computers we gave out to one a family. But many of these families take 2 or 3 kids in.
Yep.
So we started expanding that. So now they can pick up more than one computer at a time because the kids have to get online. They have
Oh,
to do
that's
their
great.
homework.
Yeah. So you get to know these families, actually.
Yes, we do.
Yes.
All right, let's talk about the education then. You have quite a few educational components. You have the adaptive technology. Tell us about that, Teresa.
Oh my gosh, that's so great.
It is pretty amazing.
It's really amazing. It's adaptive technology for the visually impaired or blind. And so what that is we have 2 instructors at the current time, and one is completely blind and one's visually impaired. And
The
what
instructors are.
the instructors are themselves, and so they have students that come in that are also visually impaired or blind themselves, and they teach them how to use the computer.
Which you'd think would be impossible because it's a screen and you have to look at it and it doesn't have little bumps on the screen. Yeah.
Oh, it's very difficult.
Yeah.
I actually took note and I stood there and I paid attention just to be able to copy and paste from one cell to another cell in an Excel sheet.
Oh my
was
gosh.
so many commands that I couldn't remember the commands. So I was just so impressed with what they do.
In teaching the adaptive technology, what they have to do is they use a screen reader, which then gives them
reader, yes.
verbal or auditory commands. And so the first thing they have to do is learn how to listen. And most people who have visual impairment have to use other senses to be able to assist them. So they listen to the instructions and then translate those. They teach them shortcuts.
Ah,
And so instead of using a mouse, they learn keyboard shortcuts to be able to manipulate the screen or the cursor on the screen. After they gain experience, they're actually able to be faster
I'll
than
bet.
we are because we use hand-eye coordination and they're able to use keyboard commands and go directly where they need to go
Oh
to.
my gosh.
So if I put myself next to one of our instructors, they're going to get through the screen faster than I will.
Oh my goodness, that's amazing.
But it takes about 6 to 8 months for most of our students to learn. And with the finishing of the program, they're actually able to go out and start employment.
Oh, that's great.
So we work
That's
with a
great.
number of community partners. The county was the first one who took our first graduate, and he's working with the Health and Human Services Department. And then other organizations have hired them. So we have, I think, around 15 graduates that are out
That's
there.
great.
They either have to go back to school for the purpose of getting a job, or they go directly into an employment.
Fabulous.
Now, if you really want to think about the impact that's made, Jenny, is the majority of them, 77% of the blind population, has never worked in their life.
Right, I'm sure.
That's quite a bit.
That's
And for them to
amazing.
be able to transition, make that transition as a result of our program, which is unique in San Diego County, Orange County, and LA County.
Oh my gosh.
We're the only ones that are able to provide this service for the blind and visually impaired.
fantastic.
And for them to go on and get a job with the county,
Ah,
with the Department of Navy.
a good job. A good job.
Absolutely,
Well,
absolutely.
it's
Life
necessary
changing.
because
Life-changing.
right now most of the individuals who come to our programs are receiving some type of Social Security or benefit. And if they earn a certain amount, they start to decrease that or lose that.
Yep.
And so they have to feel confident enough that they're going to be able to get a good paying job and
Absolutely.
be able to keep that job for
Absolutely.
them to give up their Social Security benefits. So it's always it's quite a challenge
Yeah.
to overcome that fear, because what does it mean to have that safety net there
Exactly.
and suddenly let it go?
Exactly. All right, talk about
Absolutely.
the programs for seniors. Who
Well,
wants
that
to-
started, again, it sounds like we have a lot of ties to the county, and we do. That started off with an opportunity that came along from Aging and Independent Services, which is a part of Health and Human Services. And they received a request, someone had received a grant, and they wanted to initiate a program called Virtual Senior Centers. And it was where people that were homebound could use the computer to engage in classes, just like
Okay.
you would if you went to a senior center or another program that taught classes. And this way they didn't feel isolated or alone. And so that's how it started. And then the county said, well, what if we were able to help our seniors and help more of them, because seniors are still the largest disconnected population. So when you look at that 400,000 people I talked about, well, seniors make up probably about 20 to 25, maybe even 30% of that.
And probably growing.
Well, it's one of those things where if you didn't grow up with the technology,
That's
or
true.
as you start to lose some of your senses as acute as they once were, it makes it challenging. It creates fear.
Yes.
And so one of the things that we have to do is how do you overcome that fear? So the program with the county started off by us training other seniors on how to teach. And so we created this program called the Tech Ambassador, Senior Tech Ambassador Program. And so we train seniors on how to teach other seniors to use the computer.
Oh, great.
And that way they feel like they're learning from somebody who is their peer or equal. And they're much more likely to be patient with some of our full boils when we can't
Right.
do it as fast
That's right.
as the kids do, right?
That's right. That's right.
But what's great about the program itself is, yes, it's about teaching seniors how to use technology, whether it be Facebook or Skype, to be able to stay in contact with their grandchildren or their family, or to use Uber and Lyft and things of that nature. That's great, and be able to do that. But what's more important is it helps to prevent depression and isolation.
Good. Good.
So it has such a deeper meaning.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. That is such a fabulous part of the program. And what about STEM Fest?
Oh.
You just had a STEM
Yes,
Fest.
we did.
That goes at the opposite end of the spectrum. Those are for kids.
Yeah.
Right? And so we did our first STEM Fest in 2017.
2018.
2018, thank
March
you.
23rd.
That's what happens when you get old.
I know.
2018. And we did that because the thing that we kept hearing around the science, technology, and engineering, arts, and mathematics, STEAM or STEM, was that the kids did not figure how to translate what they were doing in the classroom to what it would be like in a work environment.
That's a common problem about all of education.
Why am I learning this math? Why am I learning this science? What good is it going to do me when I get older, right?
Right, right.
So what we wanted to do was bring professionals in the industry together and have the kids have a chance to talk to them and find out what is it you do and how is this mathematics used? Do you sit in a room all day just doing math problems?
Right.
Because that's what they do in school, right?
Right.
And what the person is able to tell them, like for instance an engineer, he's able to say, no, I go out, I measure, I calculate angles, I look at various strengths and weaknesses, for instance tensile strength, how much can it hold? Those are all the applications I use it for. Somebody else may be talking about the lab and talking about what is it like to do measurements. You have to know your precise, is it a gram? Is it a milligram? Is it kilograms? And how do I use those in creating a new gene or measuring?
That's right.
You know? So it's that kind of experience that we wanted to be able to share with the students. And it has made a major difference because kids now can go back to school and start thinking about what do I want to be when I grow up. And now they'll know what kind of classes they have to take to get there. And they're more willing to tolerate boring subjects
That's right.
if they have a
Absolutely.
purpose.
That's right. It's great. And you have one more thing. We have coding. You have some sort
Our
of
boot
coding.
camp, yes.
Coding boot camp. What's that?
So if you take most, well, in San Diego, you're talking about reaching a $15 minimum wage, right? But it costs almost $40,000 to live with somebody in a house. That's just making it. That's just getting by.
Right.
And when you start looking at what does it cost to live in San Diego, starting with a minimum wage is just not going to do it. So instead of training people at that entry level point, we wanted to give them skills that do not require a college education, but could earn them what we call a living wage. And so coding is one of those skill sets that people can master, and it's in high demand. And many of the jobs start at $80,000 to $100,000, and that's life changing. And so we have a camp that goes roughly 6 months. We train them in programs such as Java or full stack, and allows them to be hired and employed by any of the regional businesses, and they can start off making a decent living.
That's fabulous.
And again, it's unique, one of a kind. We offer a free coding boot camp
Free.
in San Diego
Yeah,
County.
most of
And
them cost $15,000 to $20,000.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
to my knowledge, we're the only ones that offer a free coding boot camp.
Wow. So, well, I know that it can't be easy to try to reach all these people and do all of this that you're doing. I'm sure it's a challenge, and you have a very busy office with lots of things going on. And so I'm just going to we're going to review one more time. How can people get in touch with you? Give that website one more time.
Again, at sdfutures.org.
Okay.
Or you can you could show up at our location, which is 4283 El Cajon Boulevard, Suite 220. We're up on the top floor.
Like from 10 to 5?
9 to 5.
9 to 5. Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Any
Or-
day of the Monday through Friday.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Monday
Okay.
through Friday, of course. And then you can also, or just give us a call at 619-269-1684.
And they can find out about classes.
They can ask questions.
Absolutely.
The other thing that we look for, you talked about money. You talked
Yep.
about donating computers. The other things that we can take advantage of are volunteers.
Ah,
We're always
Yes.
needing additional seniors that are
Yes.
interested in donating their time to teach a class. We have programs that can work with the youth at our STEM Fest. So there's a lot of ways that we can put volunteers to work. So if somebody wants to volunteer, please go to our website or make a phone
Right.
call.
Now, do they need to make a commitment of every Monday, or
No.
is it like
No, we can. They can let us know what their availability is,
Great.
and then we can plug them in where needed.
super? Well, that sounds like a great idea for somebody to do.
Yes.
Well, I want to thank you both for being here
Thank
today.
you.
We learned a lot. I'm really hoping the word gets out here and that people will start calling you up and letting you know what they
Great.
need.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much
so
for
much.
having us.
Imagine how hard your life would be without access to the internet. That's what life is like for nearly 500,000 people in San Diego County. 500,000 without internet access. People who don't have computers or subscribe to the internet are left behind in what's known as the digital divide, the gap between those who have online access and those who don't. Now, struggling families have the San Diego Futures Foundation and its Community Technology Center in City Heights. A place where county residents can get a low-cost computer with the most updated Windows and Microsoft Office software and lifetime help desk support. Plus, they'll be able to subscribe to discounted internet, significantly lower than other rates out there. All because San Diego Futures Foundation makes sure San Diego families get connected to the rest of the world. E-recycling is a huge part of how we fund San Diego Futures Foundation. If you're fortunate enough to afford a computer, consider helping your fellow San Diegans by donating old or unused computers today.